Welcome to the Real Estate Syndication Show. Whether you are a seasoned investor or building a new real estate business, this is the show for you. Whitney Sewell talks to top experts in the business. Our goal is to help you master real estate syndication. And now your host, Whitney Sewell.
This is your daily real estate syndication show. I'm your host, Whitney Sewell. Today, our guest is Charlie Ansanelli. Thanks for being on the show, Charlie.
Thank you for having me. I'm a longtime listener and first-time guest. Happy to be here.
Yeah, happy to have you. And Charlie is a former tech entrepreneur turned full-time mobile home park investor operator who owns and operates 10 mobile home parks comprising over 500 units and over $20 million current market value. In addition to mobile home park investing, Charlie is also an angel investor and enjoys mentoring other entrepreneurs or people new to the real estate investing space. Charlie, again, welcome to the show. Obviously I've read a little about you and you're a perfect guest for our show. And just hearing, the success that you've had in this space. So I'm interested, about hearing where you came from. How did you do that? How did you find mobile home parks? How did you know that was the asset class for you? And then we'll talk about some other things, of course, about getting there.
Yeah. So those are all great questions. If you asked me sort of 10 years ago, if I'd, be running a little mini mobile home park empire, I certainly would not have believed you, or I probably would have told you to go away. You're a crazy person. But here I am, running and managing 500 mobile home park units across Western Pennsylvania through Ohio and Indiana. And I absolutely love it and thrilled to be doing what I'm doing. So my journey to mobile home park investing really started, if I think about it, probably back in 2016. I was in my mid to late 20s, and I had just had my first child, my daughter, and I was running a business, and it was a good business, and it was a profitable one, good income. It was allowing me to have a good life and support my family. But it was, very, very time consuming. I was getting burned out. A lot of the things you hear people complain about 9 to 5. Well, running a business is a lot of those same things too. You have your boss is just your boss is your customers, and they're always, demanding things as well. So it was a very demanding business. And I really wanted to sort of carve a path where I could eventually get my time back, but also carve a path where I can create real wealth. And so the business was a good income, but I didn't really feel like it was creating wealth. And so I had saved up sort of this nest egg of $120,000 plus or minus. And that took me a few years really to kind of accumulate. And a lot of people said, well, hey, you're a young man, you got a family, go buy a house. You should buy a house. That's the next logical thing to do. That's what the banks tell you to do. It's what everyone sort of says you should do. And I had other objectives, and I wanted to get more income streams. I wanted to diversify my income streams because I didn't feel, being self-employed, very secure, having all of my income come from one source. And, Whitney, looking back, thank goodness I made that decision, because that business that I'm talking about that I was running is actually not even happening right now because of what's happening with this global pandemic. So I would be in a very different position talking to you today. I wouldn't be talking to you today if I didn't, diversify my income streams. And so back in 2016, I decided I wanted to buy real estate. That seemed to be the most logical path to building long-term wealth. And so sort of on this journey of deciding, okay, well, which, asset class am I going to purchase? I kind of did what I think a lot of people do is they kind of go online, you go to Bigger Pockets, you go to a lot of different websites and different gurus, and sort of you kind of peel back the layers of what's the right investment for you. And I've always been a fan of unsexy things. I've always been a fan of chaotic industries. That's kind of where I tend to sort of, believe the value is. And, the opportunity to sort of take chaos and organize it is where you can really capture the most value. And so that ultimately led me to this mobile home park world. And I sort of, I think, I was like a lot of people and, sort of saying, why would I want to own a mobile home park? Aren't mobile homes like something that depreciates in value and the tenant base and a lot of these sort of stigmas that are around it. But as I unpeeled it, as I sort of unpacked it, I discovered, okay, so the goal here isn't really to own the homes. The goal here is to own the land that occupies the homes. And then, ideally I want the tenants to own the homes. If they don't own them already, I'm going to sell them back on a 0% interest, lease to own contract. It's a win-win. They're going to become homeowners. They're going to become long-term tenants. We're talking, my tenants are, 5, 10, 15, 20-year tenants because they own their home. The homes aren't that mobile. They can't drive off in the middle of the night. It does cost an average of $5,000 to really move one of these homes. So unless you're, a slumlord or a terrible, landlord or gouging on prices, there's not a lot of incentive for them to move. And so when I looked at a lot of those factors, it became more appealing. And then I kind of unpacked it more. And I said, okay, well, let me look at sort of the demand for this product, the demand for this space. And, housing in America is only becoming more and more expensive and more cost prohibitive. And so when I look at the market forces, for affordable housing, I thought, okay, this is something that I should probably invest in. This is going to be a long-term trend that I only see becoming a higher need is the need for affordable housing. And then there was one more very, very attractive, sort of layer to all this. And that was the shrinking supply curve and the rising demand curve. So the rising demand curve for affordable housing, met with a shrinking supply curve of mobile home parks actually being demolished, more each year than are being created. And there's a lot of reasons for that. And I won't spend this podcast getting into that, but a lot of those reasons really led me to really sort of making an unconventional decision and deciding to use my nest egg to ultimately purchase a 31 pad mobile home park in Tucson, Arizona. And I chose Tucson because I was living in California and it was something close by that I thought I could travel to relatively easily if I had to get there. And I purchased that one in 2017. I got that for $695,000 seller financing, put $120K down, and sort of created my business plan to add value, to improve the quality of the park, paint, roads, a lot of the basic stuff. Bring in homes in the empty pads, fill in vacancies, do some rehabs, a few rent raises because they were under market. Nothing this is very hard. It's not very easy, but it's also not very hard. And so I followed that plan. And in a year and a half, I was able to sell that park that I had purchased for $695,000. Mind you, it's cash flowing very well throughout the entire time. And I was able to sell it for $1.325 million, within a year and a half. And so I thought, okay, there's something here. I think I want to do more of this. So I want to back up just a little bit and ask you a few questions about some of this process.
So backing way up a little bit, why not just go passive? You mentioned like you had a profitable business you were working at, and I understand, very time consuming, all those things. But instead of taking that risk with your, this nest egg that you have worked so hard to save over a couple of years, and even in fact, like sounds like you put it all in that one deal, in that first deal. And so why not just invest it passively and keep working the profitable business like you were?
Yeah. So at that time, my goal wasn't to necessarily create another business. My goal at that time was to create an investment, an alternative investment for myself that would sort of offset some of my expenses. And I didn't really, at the time, think I was going to grow it into what it has become today. And that's not to say, I had offers, I had family members and friends, as I kind of talked to them, and, they wanted to invest with me, but I just really felt like I didn't want the pressure of other people's money at the time. I really wanted to say to myself, hey, let me sort of, prove with my own capital, let me put my neck on the line and let me build my formula here. And ultimately, I've done that a couple of times, and that really led me to sort of have the confidence in myself, ultimately, that I can be, trusted with other people's money, because I now do partner, with select investors and LPs and on deals, and I participate in the capital pool in those deals as well. But it's a very big responsibility to me. I treat all of my investors' dollars like they're worth 2 times more than my dollars, because I care about the relationships. The people I bring in, they're not strangers. Even if I don't know them well, I know that they have a family. I know that they work hard for their money. I treat, because I know how I feel about my money. So, I think, at that time, I didn't want that extra added layer of stress to something that was still new and that I was still learning. If that answers that.
Yeah, I just meant, like, why not just be passive, like invest in somebody's syndication or something like that with that, and just stay in that profitable business, as opposed to really jumping out here and putting, all your capital in one place like that, having to operate your own park now and learn all that. Why not just invest passively?
Oh, right. Yeah. Sorry, I misunderstood the question. So I think the reason for that was, it's just in my nature to just sort of, I just love business. I just love sort of rolling up the sleeves and getting dirty. I love figuring things out. I could have probably invested passively, but to me, it was really about sort of, I don't know, doing it on my own, learning it, inside and out. And I always had a passion for real estate. So it wasn't something I was like, dreaded doing.
What about, putting on, or let me back up a little bit too, just educating yourself to get that first deal done, like the 31 pads, seller finance. Congratulations, by the way. How did you educate yourself to understand the mobile home park business well enough to feel confident enough to put that entire nest egg into that deal?
Yeah, and that's another great question. So I just spent about a year and a half of research and due diligence, and I read books, and I attended seminars, and I listened to podcasts, and I CDs on tape, you name it. I mean, I did it all. And you get to a certain point where you're never going to be 100% ready to do anything. My philosophy is you have to get to 80%. If you can get to 80%, pull the trigger. Because otherwise you'll just be waiting around forever. And I see these people sometimes, and, they kind of do the seminar to seminar sort of, they got one seminar lined up, and then they're going to go to the next one in Dallas for self-storage the next month. And because I think that people are afraid of sort of, failure. And so you have to not be afraid of failure. You have to be okay to accept failure, but just limit your failure by doing your due diligence and having a certain criteria and follow that criteria. I mean, look, when I bought that first park, I was like, I signed the dotted lines, and it was like, I was like 27. It was scary to me. It was like the largest thing I ever bought at the time. And I look back now, it's like a small deal for me. But at the time, it was like, am I ready for this? I just put everything into a mobile home park. Am I a crazy person? But I had to calm myself down and say, look, I did the research here. I had my checklist. It met my checklist. I'm going forward.
Nice. How did you find that deal?
Yeah, I found that deal because I was searching with brokers in the area. I had sort of, at this point, identified the asset class. I identified sort of the region. I narrowed it down to the Southwest, and just sort of deal after deal I was looking at. I wasn't liking, kind of liked it, maybe, but then they liked my offer, put some offers in. And then there's this one deal that was just, it was under contract, and I had kind of gotten wind it was going to fall out of contract, and I just stayed on it. And so the moment, I was able to sort of take it over from having fallen out of contract, I was right there and ready to jump on it.
Nice. Well, you educated yourself and you just went all in. You was not afraid of failure. I appreciate that and can relate in a lot of ways. But now you sold that property, you 1031 into another one. You've just, your portfolio has grown very fast over the last couple of years. What were a couple of keys there to the next stage of growth? The first time it seems like, you had the capital to go in there and make it happen. You got the seller financing. Congratulations on that. And then, what about the next level, being able to do more deals? Was it starting to syndicate finding LPs? What was that?
Yeah. So I was, sort of running this one here in Tucson, and I was feeling, pretty successful with, about 9 months in, 12 months in, about how I was turning it around. And the proof was in the pudding. I mean, it was a moneymaker. And so then I had partnered with a couple friends and my parents on a couple opportunities out in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and sort of purchased that in partnership with them because I had some extra capital, but not all the capital I needed, and we had sort of created a pretty friendly structure on those, and then we actually did quite well, and sort of again, it's very similar. We sort of followed the plan, and these weren't very big deals, but we followed the plan that I had set forth, and in a year's span, this is shortly after I had sold my Tucson property, sort of simultaneously, we had actually doubled the value of those properties as well, and I was able to refinance those, sort of buy out my partners, which is a couple friends and parents, and they got a very large return, and I got to sort of maintain the assets, and I still have those today, and I have some surrounding properties around those as well. So that kind of led me towards feeling comfortable with, okay, I feel like I've done a few deals now. One was on my own, a couple with other outside investors, and then so that led me to sort of feel comfortable with using other people's money. And to this day, my parents invest in my deals too. And so it's like, to any investors, I mean, it's like, hey, I'm involved in it. I'm in the capital pool, and so are my parents, and so are some friends. So, you're investing alongside my entire, not just net worth, but my entire personal net worth, right? My reputation is on the line, everything I do. So it's just sort of, I think inching towards comfortability. And I always suggest that to people too, is like, don't try and bite off more than you can chew. If you want to buy that 10, 12 unit just to get comfortable with the whole process, do it. But I also say, sell your duplex and do it. Don't just go and try and raise money from other people and not put anything down. Go figure it out yourself. And then you have a story to tell. And then you can duplicate that story and then, put some of your own funds into the next deal, or maybe not, maybe you're recourse, but at least you've proven that you've done it and you have a story.
No doubt. Well, Charlie, in the mobile home park business, and as you have grown your business quickly, how do you prepare for a downturn, in this business? What are things you like to see, as you're underwriting or as you're preparing to do a deal that's just, non-negotiable, when preparing for just really the unknown?
Yeah, it's a great question, right? So, I purchased mobile home parks because they were a recession-resistant asset class. The thesis on mobile home parks is that people in good times move up into mobile home parks, and then bad times they move down, and so it sort of is the backstop to affordable housing. Now, I did not know if they were pandemic resistant. That was something I was going to find out, when this came around. And it turns out that, they're not pandemic proof, nothing is, but they did turn out to be pandemic resistant. And there's a lot of factors towards that. One is that most of my tenants own their home, or they've been paying off their home. And so, when they're looking at their bills they're going to pay, or paying their rent and their home payment is sort of at the top of the list, because they don't want to lose that. That's a lot of equity to them, is their home. And they're also not likely to game the system and maybe use sort of the COVID moratorium as much, if they have equity and skin in the game. And that's a big thing about mobile home parks that separates it from the pack, is that the tenants are really partners in this whole thing. They have skin in the game. Because they are homeowners on your land. So the asset class sort of by default is sort of one of the proxies of being ready for a downturn. Other things, is that I'm not buying properties where if I hit X, Y, and Z, that's how it's going to work. And that's the only way that we're going to really sort of cash out on this. I really like to find diamonds in the rough, and you can still do that in this asset class, because it is still fragmented. It is still largely mom and pop owned. That's changing. That's not going to last much longer. But those diamond in the roughs in this asset class really truly exist a lot more. And you can find someone who has an underappreciated, distressed, large asset, and you can, buy it through the inefficiencies of the marketplace. You can buy it off market at a price where that if you had to, you could sell for a profit tomorrow. And I try to make those deals. I try to only go in deals where I know that if I needed to, if life happened and I need to sell this the next day, I'm going to, at worst, break even, but most likely turn a profit. And then if I hit my game plan, it's going to be a total home run. So that's kind of how I kind of go into it.
Yeah. Do you have any predictions for the real estate market or maybe specifically mobile home park industry over the next 6 to 12 months?
Yeah, I try not to be too smart and just sort of play the basics. And, I done very well just kind of hitting singles and doubles and triples every once in a while. I think that we're going to start turning around. I don't see things getting worse. I think we are over the hump. That said, I think it's going to be a slow recovery. I don't think it's going to be a sharp one. I think we'll see. I think the biggest thing I'm kind of paying attention to is sort of, are they going to punt the COVID moratorium again? I certainly have some tenants that are taking advantage of that, right? I mean, anybody who has been directly affected by COVID, we have, like any good landlord has done, any smart landlord, it's a business decision, has reached out to all their tenants proactively or after the fact and said, hey, if you're having trouble, if you really have lost your job, if you have gotten COVID, if you're directly affected, please let us know. We'll work out a payment plan. And we have done that with a handful of tenants. But there's certainly some that are just using this as sort of, they were going to be gone anyway. They were bad tenants to begin with. And now it's like they've gotten the green light from the government to just stick around as long as they want. Until this is over. So I'm kind of keeping an eye on that. And I'm hoping that March 31st is sort of, the end of it. But I think that's going to really dictate a lot of deals in the next 6 to 9 months, is that eviction moratorium. I think a lot of, investors are looking at that. I know I am, and I'm now looking at deals and I'm saying, hey, let me look at the aged receivables in this deal again. Let me really underwrite the tenants a little bit better in these deals, because I may be stuck with them for 6 months.
With no income.
Right. Yeah. So before it used to be much more emphasis on underwriting on the actual asset and the infrastructure. And that's still the most important thing to me, because, I can get tenants in and out. I want good bones. But you do have to now really underwrite the tenants a little bit more closely as well.
What are a couple of daily habits that you are disciplined about that have helped you achieve this success?
Organization. I was a terrible student. I always felt like I was smart, but I just was a bad student. And looking back at what made people successful at school and why I wasn't, was because they used their planner and they were organized and they got things done on time. And so it wasn't really until I just maximized my Google Calendar, my to-do list, project software like Asana, did I really hit the next level. It's really comes down to execution. You hear it over and over again, but I mean, I'd rather invest in a C idea with someone who's going to execute on it. Right. So, I live and breathe my Google Calendar, and then I have my own daily checklist. So every day I look at my checklist, I'll move things up and down on my checklist as to what's mission critical, what can wait. And then I also examine those things and say, what can I hire for? Right. And I know you're big on that too. And so that's kind of where I'm at right now, is asking myself constantly the question, what can somebody else be doing that I don't have to do?
What about your best source for meeting new investors right now?
It's all inbound. It can be, maybe a podcast like this. It's typically been social media. It's really come a lot of sort of me just kind of posting and just really not asking for anything, but just sort of saying, hey, look, this is what I'm doing. This is what I did. Here's my thought on this. And then that coming back, and then people saying, okay, Charlie seems to know what he's talking about a little bit. He seems like he's a decent guy. Maybe they call me, we catch up. I mean, a lot of my investors are maybe people I went to high school with. I didn't know that well, and they've done well in life, or people who are in my early professional network in the Bay Area, who are, now sort of reaching back out, and I'm becoming close with them. And so it's been a really rewarding experience in the sense of it's not just, me partnering with them on deals. And I love that because we can, celebrate victories and wins together, but also, getting these new friendships of people who I kind of had maybe didn't know that well, or maybe dropped off the radar, or even inbound people I never even knew, and they reach out and I get to know them and we get to have a conversation, and we get to really sort of see if it's a right fit together, because I want to make sure that they understand me, they understand, the investment type, and I'm interviewing them just as much as they're interviewing me. But of course, it's not really an interview; it's just a conversation.
How do you like to, or wait a minute? I wanted to ask you though, before I forget, the number one thing that's contributed to your success?
Organization.
Again, organization. And I wanted to just give another 30 seconds there. You talked about how tied you are to the calendar, and inbound, things like that, when we're talking about meeting new investors. What about, being tied to a calendar like that I'm the same way. I have to look at my calendar all the time because it is just a meeting after meeting after meeting most days, majority of the time. How do you incorporate, say, family into that? How much, does your wife have say in your calendar? How do you manage that?
Yeah, I've tried to include her in my Google Calendar and she hates it. So I've learned to back off on that. She's like, don't treat me like I'm one of your employees, and don't talk to me like I'm one of your employees. So I got to watch out on both those things sometimes. It's the Google Calendar, and it's just my calendar at the end of the day that allows me to be a better husband and a better father. Because if I'm not organized, if I don't know when I'm going to take care of something and that it's already planned out, then it lives in my head. And then I'm not present with my children. I'm not present with my wife. And so, the calendar allows me to say, hey, this is my free time. I will take care of I know I have other things to do. It's on the calendar. So now I can be present now. And that's helped me.
All right. And how do you like to give back?
I like to give back by helping others, whether it's, this podcast and someone can hear it, and who was like me, starting out. If there's anyone who's starting out and they're serious about, wanting help, I'm here to help them in mobile home park investing. I'm here to review deals. I'm here to give them my advice, which is worth the price that's paid, which is zero. So don't take it, as gospel, but I'm here to help where I can. And ultimately, I have a long-term vision of helping out. My wife and I are discussing other sort of ways of charity. And now I'm looking to sort of really kind of get more involved in that, and sort of pick some causes this year.
Charlie, it's been a pleasure to get to meet you and hear your story. Just congratulations to your success. And I know that did not come without a lot of hard work, a lot of time spent, and a lot of risk, right? You're willing to take that risk. I mean, you saved up that nest egg for 2 years and invested it and went all in. And now you've even moved your family across the country and to be closer to your properties. And just congratulations to you and your family. I know that just changes the trajectory for your family forever, right? The things that you have done over the last few years and that work and time you've put in. And so tell the listeners how they can get in touch with you and learn more about you.
Sure. So you can go to my website, which is rockstackcapital.com. You can email me, charlie@rockstackcapital.com. And Whitney, thanks for having me. You have offered a lot of value to everyone in the real estate community. And it's been a real honor to be here.
Thank you for listening to the Real Estate Syndication Show, brought to you by LifeBridge Capital. LifeBridge Capital works with investors nationwide to invest in real estate, while also donating 50% of its profits to assist parents who are committing to adoption. LifeBridge Capital, making a difference, one investor and one child at a time. Connect online at www.lifebridgecapital.com for free material and videos to further your success.